All right, guys, here we are. Thank you so much for your patience. We're at the Cage Titans 58 day-night doubleheader, ceremonial weigh-ins. We got a big card in store for you guys. We got an amazing day-night doubleheader, man. Fights kick off at 12 tomorrow. The day card, 7 o'clock at night. Doors open an hour before the show starts, so get here early. If you're looking for tickets, tickets are still on sale for both cards. Go to cagetitansfc.com to get your tickets. And as always, our broadcast sponsor, Spectation Sports, will be bringing you all the live action on our pay-per-view stream. So without further ado, let's get these guys up here and get them squared down.
Starting off with the evening card of Cage Titans 58. First up to the scale, Rob Fuller. $135 for Rob Fuller. And his opponent, Joe Poirier.
Let's go, Joe.
$133 for Joe Poirier. Kicking off the nighttime card, Rob Fuller versus Joe Poirier. Next up to the scale, Jake Hicksonbaugh. $155 for Jake Hicksonbaugh. And his opponent, Jerry Hughes. $157 for Jerry Muse. Jake Hicksonbaugh versus Jerry Muse. Next up to the scale, Shane Dillahay. $169 for Shane Dillahay. And his opponent, Aaron $170 for Aaron Trussell. Shane Dillahay versus Aaron Trussell. Next up to the scale, Mike Taylor. $140 for Mike Taylor. and his opponent, Andrew.
Let's go, bro.
140 for Andrew Valdina. Mike Taylor versus Andrew Valdina. Next up to the scale. 154 for Jacob Bone and his opponent, Ali Xavier. 153 for Ali Zabian. Jacob Bone versus Ali Zabian. Next up to the scale, Jay Ellis. 170 for Jay Ellis. And his opponent, Jack. 169 for Jack Congdon. Jay Ellis versus Jack Congdon. Next up to the scale, Carl. 134 for Carl Langston. And his opponent, Jeff Joy. 136 for Jeff Joy. Carl Langston versus Jeff Joy. Next up to the scale, Matt Dennis. 153 for Matt Denning. And his opponent, Pat Gilbride. 154 for Pat Gilbride. Next up to the scale, Mo Al-Sinani. 154 for Mo Al-Kinani and his opponent, Peter. 155 for Peter Barrett. Mo Al-Kinani versus Peter Barrett. Next up to the scale, for the Bantamweight Championship, the challenger, John Duma. 135 for John Duma. And now the defending champion, Joe. 134 for Joe Penefiel. Joe Penefiel versus John Duma.
I don't know what's going on here, man. Tensions are high. So we do have some details that we're ironing out for the main event between Joe Giannetti and Luigi Vendramini. So at this point in time, we will not be bringing them up to the stage. But we're going to jump right to the day card. And I'll give you guys more updates on that later on once we get everything ironed out and worked out. So, Andy, let's start the day card.
All right, after you get your coffees and breakfast, make your way to Plymouth Memorial Hall for the daytime portion of the day-night doubleheader starting at noon. Kicking things off, our first fight, Muay Thai kickboxing. First up to the scale, Adina. 104 for Adina Hornstra. And her opponent, Emily Brown. 105 for Emily Brown. Our first fight of the entire day, Adina Hornstra versus Emily Crown. Next up to the scale, Rich Clark. 144 for Rich Clark. And his opponent, Nico. 145 for Nico Mavromatis. Rich Clark versus Nico Mavromatis. And our first mixed martial arts fight of the day. First up to the scale, Will Portillo. 133 for Will Portillo. And his opponent, Ash. 134 for Ash Rao. Will Portillo versus Ash Rao. Next up to the scale, Lindsay Kelly. 143 for Lindsay Kelly. And her opponent, Anastasia Daphnou. 138 for Anastasia Daphnou. Lindsay Kelly versus Anastasia Daphnou. Next up to the scale, Carlos Balestier. 144 for Carlos Balestier. And his opponent, Blaze. 145 for Blaze Nichols. Here versus Blaze Nichols. Next up to the scale, Matt. 124 for Matt Souza. And his opponent, Neil $124 for Neil Mazumdar. Matt Souza versus Neil Mazumda. Next up to the scale, Miles. 168 for Miles Avery. And his opponent, Timothy Melvin. 170 for Timmy Melvin. Miles Avery versus Timmy Melvin. Next up to the scale, Nick Roman. 145 for Nick Roman. And his opponent, Phil. 144 for Phil Locino. Nick Roman versus Phil Locino. Next up to the scale, Julian Hunter. 144 for Julian Connerton and his opponent, Santi Munoz. 146 for Santi Munoz. Julian Connerton versus Santi Munoz. Next up to the scale, Tony Rivera. 139 for Tony Rivera and his opponent, Carlos. 140 for Carlos Vespasiano. Tony Rivera versus Carlos Vespasiano. Next up to the scale, Christian Echevarria.
Got you, brother.
154 for Christian Echevarria and his opponent, Tyler. 154 for Tyler Wolf. Christian Echevarria versus Tyler Wolf. Next up to the scale, Daniel. 173 for Daniel Keepers and his opponent, Ozzy. 172 for Ozzy Martin. Daniel Keepers versus Ozzy Martin. Next up to the scale, Bobby Baker. 150 for Bobby Baker and his opponent, Dion. 148 for Dion Perry. Bobby Baker versus Dion Perry. Next up to the scale, Troy Cutter. 190 for Troy Cutter and his opponent, Andrew. 195 for Andrew Jacobs. Troy Cutter versus Andrew Jacobs. Next up, our co-main event for the daytime portion, the day-night doubleheader. First up to the scale, Teddy Police. 134 for Teddy Politis. And his opponent, P. Baltazar. 135 for Key Baltazar. Teddy Politis versus Key Baltazar for the Amateur Bantamweight Championship. And now for the main event of the daytime portion of the day doubleheader. First up to the scale, Elvis Hernandez. 203 for Elvis Hernandez. And his opponent, Daniel $204 for Daniel Mola. For Elvis Hernandez versus Daniel Mola, your light heavyweight main event of the daytime portion of Cage Titans 58.
All right, there you guys have it. Thank you so much to all the fighters who professional, made weight, here, rep raw and ready to go. For those who are asking, the tickets from the fighters have been turned in, but tickets are still on sale at cagetitansfc.com. I'm going to do every one of these fighters a favor. Don't text them saying, can I get a ticket from you right now? Just go to the website, get your ticket. They got to rest, recover, and be ready to put on some performances for you tomorrow night. cagetitansfc.com for the tickets. And for those who are out of state or just cannot make it down to Plymouth Memorial Hall, cagetitansfc.com, and our broadcast partner, Spectation Sports, will bring you live. So go to cagetitansfc.com or spectationsports.com. There you have it, guys. An unbelievable day tomorrow. Celebrate your St. Patty's Day today, but don't get too crazy because we got a big one for you tomorrow. Day night doubleheader, Cage Titans 58. We'll see you tomorrow at the fights.
Massachusetts, let